You know, when you have autism, you don't always know how to interact and have a conversation, let somebody know that you like them, ask for their number, or even know like how to pick up on signs when they don't like you back. So one of my favorite things that I think Burke Tech ever did with our case students was they did kind of like a mock dating.
Oh, wow.
Because, and some of the
Who would have
things,
thought? Yeah,
some of the
that's
things that they do with the
fantastic things.
students, I'm like, gosh, this would benefit me. Like,
It's a place we call home. But home goes beyond the edges of campus. It's also in the communities we serve and the programs designed to empower our Red Raider family to thrive. We are inspiring conversations. This is Foundations.
My name is Martin Camacho. I am the Dean of the Toppington College of Visual and Performing Arts. And one of the things that we are very, very proud of the college is the long-standing tradition of community programs and community activities that we have. It's a natural for the arts to be outreaching into the community and sharing that expertise, not only because we want to, but because we must. We believe that if we don't have that contact with the community, it's a disservice to our students, and it will be a disservice to the community. So within those programs, we have, long-standing tradition programs that date back many years, decades. And one of the newest programs that we have within our long number of outreach programs is the Piano for Children. So the Piano for Children started about a year and a half ago, and it is a partnership with the Guadalupe Parkway Community Centers. So Guadalupe Parkway was one of the community organizations that I was able to approach early on when I came as dean. And a lot of people don't know about this organization, but it's an amazing organization because they've been in existence helping the community for over 75 years. So they're very well organized. What they do is they create after-school programs for students in the school district, particularly serving East Lubbock. But they have several feeders and several school feeders where students and kids, instead of going out into the streets, they go into the center and they help them with homework. They provide them with art classes. They provide them with music classes. They have, a whole curricula throughout the year. One of the things that we realized is that aside from the music programs that they have had, we could improve and we can bring different high caliber of instruction in a couple of areas which we thought it was needed, particularly piano and strings. And why piano and strings? Because those are the instruments that you need to start very early in life. And unfortunately, the opportunities that exist for those two instruments in the community, aside from private instruction, which can be very expensive, are very small. So we thought it was important to fill that void by providing instruction to students who otherwise wouldn't have access to it.
And how hard is it to get for an opportunity for any kid to have access to a piano, a true piano, or even keyboards or things along those lines?
Well, there's a number of barriers, natural barriers that exist there. The first one is obviously the economic barrier. When you're hiring in private instruction, you're talking about $40, $50 a week, which comes out to be a bill. And if you have, several kids at home, it can be very expensive, right? And then buying the instrument, it's another barrier. And then the cultural barrier as to, a lot of families are not very familiar with the benefits of playing an instrument or what's the benefit of, piano or string instruction in their lives. So all of these things combined together become almost unsurmountable for many families. So what we bring is, we bring the whole package to them, not only the instruction, but we also provide piano loaners. So we give them piano so they can take home as a loaner, so they can practice at home. And they have a community that allows them, alongside with other kids, to form a strong bond around the instrument. So, the cultural barrier is broken, the financial barrier is broken, the instrument barrier is broken. They have the whole instruction there. So right now we have almost 20 students in the program. The majority of them are recurrent students now. And we are bound to grow in piano and string as well. String there's another bunch, aside from those 20 in piano. And we are now hoping to grow it into the theater starting next spring.
Well, I love the way you said about breaking down those barriers, because I think with anything, is just giving kids opportunities and experiences with anything in life. Because I mean, a lot of that we see that either we're going towards a world that's wholly virtual, and so everything that they access is within their home or within their classroom. So it's very compartmentalized and stuff like that. And then so many times it's just something simple like, well, this kid just doesn't have access to a piano. And if we can give that to him, that's all it takes. So I think that's fantastic.
Right. It's an innovative model, but speaking of which, I'm assuming that in the education area, the outdoor programs are, say what again?
I said, I have it easy.
You have
get
it
kids
easy?
outside and it's enjoyable, and I'm happy, they're happy. I was a science teacher for a long period of time, and I wish I knew then when I started out what I know now. And it relates exactly to what you say. It's just about opportunity and experience. I can teach the same lesson that a biology teacher would teach, but I'm teaching it next to a river where it has relevance, that it has experience, that the kids can actually feel and do. And it's just all those problems that you think about, student engagement. We just complain about the kids being withdrawn and not be able to do those things, or just that the behavior issues are too much and it distracts in the class. Well, if you're outside, everybody's engaged and those behavior issues kind of go away. And again, it just falls back into those opportunities and experiences and go through there. So within the education realm, for me, it's the science education realm. It just was a natural thing, and I was just upset it took me so many years to get to that point. So I said, wait a second, this is it. Now I've just got to spread the word to everybody.
So what will be subjects that are more difficult to teach outdoors and which ones are? I mean, you mentioned that the sciences are more natural. I mean, if you're talking about, a natural world, if you're next to a river, it bends right to it.
Coming from a science person background, I would think, well, everything. Well, I'm a physics teacher. I teach online physics. And you would say, well, that's in a laboratory with equipment and stuff like that. No, it's all outside. It's all doable out there. There's an English teacher that will teach the kids about, writing a poem or coming up with a story or just being able to story tell what they experience in there, and it ties in. So all of those things that were barriers that I had, so wait a second, if we're teaching outdoors, it's got to be environmental science because that's all you can teach outdoors. That's not the case. There's so much that you can really do in there. History, there's so many things like that where the kids will go out there, we'll just find a fossil. Or we had a kindergartner a couple of years back found an arrowhead, and that led to like a 2-hour discussion about, okay, well, what peoples were here before we were here? Well, we start talking about the settlers that came in the area. Well, what are the settlers? They weren't the only ones here. We start talking about the Native Americans that were here. And so, one thing kind of leads to the other. So if you're asked about, okay, which topic can be best taught outdoors? All of them, which is a hard thing for a science person to say, because the science for me, just because that's my background, seems like that's probably the best one. And when we recruit kids to come, or we recruit teachers to bring their kids, because it's a big investment for them to come to us, to take their kids away from their classroom, to travel. I'm in Junction, Texas, which is close to nowhere, and so they've got to travel, and for them to stay with us, that's a big investment. And so where our sell is like, we can teach them these science terms, these science things that they have such trouble mastering in the classroom, come naturally out there because they get to experience. If they're interested in, stream flow, something easy as how fast is the water moving and how much the water is moving. Well, it's kind of hard to teach if you don't have a concept and see that water moving and go through those. So wow, that really is 1 million gallons of water moving through those areas, and it makes sense to them. But it's a fantastic opportunity for these kids to kind of experience new things and get out there. And I think that's what a true education should be. It should be you'll find your niche somewhere. Right. You just got to have that experience everywhere you go.
So how do teachers know to get in touch with you about scheduling or coming out?
I recruit a lot, so I try to talk to as many teachers as I can. Once people come, they usually tend to keep coming. We have schools that have been coming for 12, 15, 20 years. To be honest with you, it's a challenge because education is a transitional kind of place. So the teacher that we talked to this year and is bought in and knows this is worthwhile for their students, okay, there's a new teacher coming in, and he doesn't see the value in that, so you've got to sell them over there. So if you know a good way to do that and recruit, please let me know. But it's just don't give up. That's what we do. There's schools that'll not come for 5 years and then they start coming again.
So I got a question. The first thing that comes to mind is, what about the weather? You're bringing students, and what I would probably think if I would be a parent or a teacher is, oh my gosh, the summer in Junction is going to be hot. How are they going to concentrate, or cold, or it's going to rain?
And I have a philosophy that I think I'm the only one that I have yet to sell it to everybody, that there's no bad weather. There's lightning, and in Junction there's tornadoes. There's 2 events that would prevent us from doing that. Because if it's raining, I have ponchos. If it's hot, we have towels we'll wear around our neck, and we'll go inside and we'll drink a lot of water. If it's cold, we'll bundle up. It's hard to get past it. You've got to experience nature and the setting that it gives you. If it's 113, we had kids at 113 in Camacho, at 113, and it was the best 3 days of their lives. And
Kids are so much more resilient to weather like that.
I'm glad you were going to say that, because it was the worst 3 days of their teachers' lives. But it's centrally focused, but you make a joke out of it. Okay, well, we're going to go in the river and we're going to collect macros for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to get in the river for about 30 minutes, and we're going to do these things.
Speaking a little bit about adversities, I gather both of your programs get success out of adversity, right? I mean, I imagine that working with the population that you work, most of us would see that as adversities, but you turn them into successes. So how's that process?
Try to. I know, we offer services to a variety of individuals. From, I think our youngest client that we've had at the center is 3, and with our mobile outreach and telehealth services, I think our oldest was 55. Mm-hmm. So, and these are some families that the older was still living at home. They're always going to live with someone and have someone to depend on for care. And I remember the mom during, we always ask follow-up questions about how things are going. And it was a little heartbreaking because the mom said, you were the first group of people to really actually help and listen and help me. Her son was 50, in his 50s. And so to hear that was it was heartbreaking, but also heartwarming that we were able to provide the help that she specifically needed to help her son be more independent in the home setting. And so, which is ultimately our goal, is to try to help them be as independent as they possibly can be, so they can advocate for their needs and, just be successful and have a higher quality of life. And I know they kind of overlap, because I know a lot of our families come to you and vice versa. So,
well, and we kind of see the same way you do. We want to keep our riders in the program forever, because we fall in love with all of them. Their stories, their goals, their achievements and everything. But at the end of the day, you want them to become as independent as possible. For some, that might be that they're going to be a walk-only rider for forever, And then for others, it's that, they've gotten to the point where they're ready for an actual horse trainer to come in. And, they get to go show and, all these cool things that I wish I could do, And it's like, it's sad for us, because we're letting them go. But on the flip side, we've given them those skills and, life skills and stuff that they can go out and they can be productive in the world. And that's really cool, And like you said, a lot of our population overlaps. We see riders as young as 2. Our oldest has been 98. We got
what?
To,
oh
yes,
my gosh, how great.
We got to, it was probably, 15-ish years ago, 15, 17 years ago. We got to be part of a woman in hospice, and it was her last wish that she grew up on a farm, and she wanted her family to see that at 98 years old, she could still ride a horse, and they should be too. And, all the news stations got out there, and it was really cool. We tried to walk beside her because we wanted her to be safe and everything. The minute she got up there, she just squeezed and off we went. And I was like, I don't know if I can keep up with her, but it was a really cool experience.
I think everybody would benefit, everyone from 2 to 98. Isn't that fantastic? From sitting up and just seeing the perspective on top of a horse. Just what a great, if it's a one-time, lifetime goal, just I want to do it once, or if it's just something I want to do forever.
Right.
It really kind of just is a neat thing for somebody to do and to experience it.
And I imagine what I'm really curious to know is, there is no such a typical autism or typical disability. I mean, everyone is different. So you see lots of unique individuals that you need to help and that you help out. So how do you do that? How do you approach each one with their own needs?
And there's a quote, and I don't remember who said it, but it's, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, because they're all so vastly different, just like we are. And so, you know, one of the first things that we do, if the individual themselves is able to communicate and advocate for themselves, we'll talk with them about, you know, ultimately, why are you here? What do you need us to help you with? Sometimes if they're not able to verbally communicate, we'll meet with the family as well and just see, you know, what's your goal? Like, what can we do to help your child be successful and be as independent as they can be? Which, like you said, independence looks so different for some. Some will always have to depend on someone for some level of care, and others can, you know, be gainfully employed. And so the first thing we do is just kind of sit down and talk about, what's your goal? What you came here because you have a goal to work on something. What is it that we can help with? We have an adult program called the Transition Academy that's for adults between the ages of 18 and 30. And ultimately their goal is employment, because so many people with disabilities, especially autism, I think the employment rate as adults is like less than 30%. Our program actually has a little bit higher, actually it's quite a bit higher, it's in the 80s in terms of they finish the 2-year program, and within that 2-year program we've typically found a place for them to work. We have internship sites all over. Have they? I don't know if they've interned at.
We've had a couple throughout the years.
Yeah, I think so. 'Cause inevitably we have some that always want to be a vet tech or something, and so we try to place them. If they say this is an area of interest that I'm interested in trying to find job skills, we really try to let them take the lead in what it is that they're wanting to do. And if we can make it happen where we try to find a place for them to work on those job skills, then we do that. Then that way it's, you know, they're passionate, it's something they're really interested in. And usually the business or the company that we're working with is like, wow, they're fantastic. How quickly can we hire them? We had a student that he actually interned at the Rawls golf course. It was the first time that we'd had someone intern there. And they knew immediately, like, he was doing great. They wanted to hire him. And we're like, okay, well, we need him to go through the interview process. And they're like, no, we just want to hire him. We get that, but we also have to work on job skills. So if this job doesn't work out, he's got the experience of how to dress for a job interview, how to answer questions. And so while we all knew it was more of a ploy, like to set that up, like he already had the job and he's done great there and is still there actually. So
is that part of the process where it's just trying to find something that the kid loves versus something they can do, something that they would love and go through there?
Right. So it's really a little of all of that. And so for many, it's the very first job they've ever had. Right. And so we actually have a shred business within the Burkhart Center as well. And for so many, it's the very first paycheck they've ever gotten. So we're talking about individuals, I think our average age right now is like 24. And so imagine if you're 24 and it's the first paycheck you've ever gotten. Because while they're in shred, they're working on that, but they have to go through all of the onboarding training that tech staff have to go through. So they have to go through like the HIPAA, FERPA, confidentiality.
Oh, fantastic for them.
HR, yeah, HR. We actually, we don't do it where it's all online. Like HR actually sets a day and comes and accommodates and makes some modifications for our students. But they also clock in, clock out. You know, there's rules about what you can and can't do in that space because there are confidential documents. That is an opportunity for us to work on some of those kind of prerequisite job skills. Like I said, just the basics of understanding that jobs have rules. There's, you know, the clocking in, clocking out, keeping up with your debit card. If you don't have direct deposit, what do you do with that check? How do you set up direct deposit to make that a lot easier for you to have that money right away?
Well, and we're kind of the same way, you know, when we get riders in or whatever, we set them down and we have an evaluation with them and their parents or guardians, you know, and what is it that you're looking for? And I always tell all of my instructors, students, you know, full-time employees, work with their abilities, not their disabilities, because when you see what they're capable of doing, you know, it opens up a whole lot more doors than if you look at what their restrictions are. And so we try really hard just to look at those abilities that they do have and what horse is going to work best with them, and what instructor and what therapist, and what is going to work best for this rider. A lot of these, especially kids, haven't been given that opportunity. They're looked at as, I'm a kid with autism, and we look at them as they are a child. The autism is just extra, and I feel like I would not want my kid to be looked at as a diagnosis. Like, yes, it's going to help us know what we can and can't do on our side, but I don't want my kids or the kids out there to be seen as a diagnosis or a number. Like, they're a person that's coming here to learn how to ride. And it just goes back to the whole basis of the program, just playing to their abilities. And once you do that, their parents are so excited. They're like, we didn't know my kid could do that. Mm-hmm. And they see a different side of their kid than they've ever seen. And then we get to work off of that and build on those skills. And I think sometimes they surprise themselves because they're like, well, I didn't know I could do that, And if you just look at them on paper, you would never think that they could. But when you take out the disability part and just say, okay, we're going to work with what we've got, and like you said, adapt and overcome.
Right.
Okay, you use a wheelchair, fine, we'll get you up there, just kind of work with what we've got and roll with it. So
really the opportunities and potential is greater than the limitations.
We try to make it that way and make it an environment where that is fostered,
Right.
where we're not holding people back. When I taught more, I learned way more from those riders than they ever learned from me, because they would say something very insightful that they were just talking about life and they didn't realize it was so profound, like one of my riders actually told me, I just adapt and overcome. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, and
It's a t-shirt.
yes, yes, for sure. And it's like the things these kids say while they're riding just make you feel like you can overcome anything because you don't have the challenges they do, and it's like, wow, that's their inspirations just being there, and it makes you want to be better.
I think one of the things too, you got to listen, pay attention, listen to the parents' feedback. You can have the best laid plan, you can have the best program based on evidence, but if we don't have the buy-in and we don't see that from the individual that we're working with, or the family even tells you maybe this isn't working, we've got to be able to shift, because we want them to have continued success, and we want to know that even once they leave here, in 3 months, if we check back in, they're still utilizing some of those skills that we taught because it was meaningful to them.
What you said is very, very interesting, because I don't know if you agree with me on this. I guess a question for everyone is, we probably realize that our community programs are not only benefiting the individual that we are serving, but it expands to their families, of course, immediately, and to the community as a whole, right? To their neighbors, schools, every person that touches that person.
Well, I see some relations with your program too, where it's these unintended benefits that you see. I would imagine, is there a place where, as a student just get, I guess there's not if they're 98, there's no end to this, right? They can keep doing the program as long as they're seeing benefits?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as they're seeing benefits to it, and they haven't surpassed what we know, we're glad to keep them forever. We'd love to have all of them forever, but I think the biggest compliment is when they do move on from our program, because they take what they've learned and they're growing beyond us. And that to me feels like the ultimate compliment. Like, we got them there,
Right.
And they can go do incredible things now. And we've had a couple of them that, they started as riders with, more minor disabilities, and they've come back and got certified. They've been employees now.
Wow.
And I'm old enough now, I guess, that I can have riders turn into employees. But, it's just really cool to see that they outgrow our program, and that's a good thing. And I hate to, we want to keep them all, but when they do, it's a good feeling. It's like, wow, we accomplished something, because they do have those life skills, and especially those with autism or any sort of diagnosis along that line. when they go and get a job, or when they go and, we've seen a couple that went and got married and, set up their house and everything. And it's like, wow, we were a small part of something incredible for that person and that family. Because, I'm sure you see it a lot, like you were saying with the 50-year-old son, like a lot of these students and writers aren't given that chance. And I'm sure with, your guys with, they just don't have that available to them. And I feel like ours are the same way. Like they don't have that available for whatever reason. And nobody wants to give them that chance. And like I said, we just get to be a small part of something so incredible. And I think a lot of people always ask me, man, how have you stayed for 20 years, And I'm like, yeah, that was a lot of stalls cleaned. And but it was being a part of something that had such an impact on people. And, just getting to be a small part of their lives and a change for the better is so rewarding. And
I know I've said to families before, families and even the individuals that we work with, that I mean this in the nicest way possible, but I hope I never see you again. Because if I don't, that means that you are soaring and you're independent and you are successful and you don't need us.
yes.
And that's the ultimate goal.
Where do you find where do most of the people that come to you, are they, you've got some population of tech students, some of Lubbock residents, things along those lines?
All of the above.
Oh, is it?
So
Okay.
we have multiple programs at the Burkhart Center. We do have a college program called CASE. And so those are students who get into tech just like any other on their own academic merit. But they do have a diagnosis of autism. And for a lot of them, it's the very first time they've been away from home. And more than likely, we're receiving special education services in public school. And so for the first time, they're having to make educational decisions without mom being the one making the decisions for them. And so they have what are called learning specialists that they meet with, they have goals. I like to kind of say, when I'm explaining the program, especially to families, that we really kind of supplement what disability services provide. So disability services on campus helps with accommodations for your classes. We help with all the other stuff that's kind of still a huge part of your academic success when you're at Texas Tech. And so they have social get-togethers. Like I said, the dating kind of workshop that Burt Tech used to help with, but really trying to help them navigate what it's like to go to college. In recent years, we started hosting a tailgate and it's not in Raider Alley, you know how crazy that can be, but we started at the center and we give them the option of, if you do want to go to tailgate, but you're kind of nervous about going over there, we can go with you and just kind of be in the background and be there for support if you need that. This year, we actually even got tickets for the game to be able to all kind of sit together if they wanted to as well. Just to have that support and have each other. So, but that's the college piece, but we really help everyone across the state now at this point. So the last several years, we've had grant funding for a telehealth program as well. We have a mobile clinic. So the mobile clinic really services anywhere within a 2-hour radius of Lubbock. And so you've got families in these rural areas that just do not have access to resources to help with disabilities and with the significant needs that their kids might have. And so we'll go out, we'll do face-to-face kind of an assessment component to ask them, what is it that we really need to focus on? That particular grant is parent funded, so it's specific for parent training. And so with that, we're training the parents, but we always tell the parents, if your teacher's interested in being part of this, they are more than happy to join, but you're the primary focus, but we can answer any questions and help provide support. And what typically happens with that is the teacher then goes back and tells the principal, you will not believe what we learned today. And I inevitably get a call from a school principal that's like, what can we do for y'all to provide some level of support for our teachers, whether that be teacher training, professional development, coming in and doing stuff. But in recent years, that's expanded to telehealth as well. And so that's open to any individual across the state of Texas. And so we've worked with individuals south of San Antonio, Texarkana, all over in terms of just providing telehealth over Zoom. We send AirPods to the families if they don't have a pair. and we don't have a camera. We're basically just kind of watching, like kind of big brother, and we're coaching the parents how to address some of the skill deficits that they might have identified that they want to work on how do I help my child communicate more, or whatever behavior might be an issue, and that's what we work with.
Well, that's great. I think within all of us, and I say this when I get groups there, because I'll see thousands of kids from all different backgrounds and different school districts and stuff like that, and it's their first time on a college or university setting. So this is their first thing. What they know about university is usually through sports. I'm this team's football fan or this team's football fan. So when we see these things, it's like you were saying about expanding those borders and reaching all these people that exist beyond just the campus per se here in Lubbock, and reaching all these people. It's instilling in them all these confidences, all these abilities, all these things to see beyond themselves, I think, which is really making an impact. And unfortunately, none of us, we've all said this, we don't know where that goes, but it's got to go somewhere good, right? It's got to be a benefit that we see there versus, this kid is the next one in Carnegie Hall getting shoved out by getting booted out on stage, or if it's, finally they've reached 98 and they just want to show the family that they can still ride a horse as well as anybody. That's fantastic. And to me, that's what keeps me going. When I see that new bus come in, with 60 kids that are just kind of, I don't know what this place is. What was that mass rider at the front? I don't know anything about Texas Tech, but when they get there, what they find is people, all of us here, kind of seeing more in a kid than they see in themselves, pushing them to do more, right? It's not going to be easy. I always tell the kids when they come out, I like the word grit. And it's just a good word, right? It's 4 letters. It's easy to say, you can't pronounce it. But it's about perseverance and staying on track. And I think they see that with all these programs that we get to them, because kids are, there's a certain level of defeatism that I see in students today that I didn't recognize before. And I don't know if I've gotten older and I've changed, or if we've just gone through so much and they've changed. But it's real easy to give up. And so to be able to stay in a program for several years and learn that, to stay in a program, to graduate out of a program and things like that, that really bring some life skills. I think that's more important beyond, I joke about it because it's like, do I really care about the lesson anymore? Do I really care if the kid really remembers metamorphosis? And I'm getting to the age where it's kind of important, but not that important. But I care about the experience that they had. Do they really remember being out there? Do they remember how they felt? Do they remember that they were able to learn and interact? And I think it's built more on these relationships that we build, more so than, okay, this is the lesson for today, because the lesson should just be building relationships with these kids.
And they're remembering, because the fact that you had somebody come as a student and then they're a teacher, that's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel. I've gone to a couple of my students' weddings now where they've grown up and they get weddings, so I still don't know how I feel. So I still remember you as this little kid, not as a person ready to be raising your own family and stuff like that. So, but it's nice to see that you made an impact and you go through there. And I really do hope that this kid is the next generation of teachers, and we've just built this cycle of people that are just going to carry on those good thoughts and good things that we all do. And so it's a very rewarding job. I think we all do.
That's probably my hope, that what we're doing is going to instigate a passion. Because if we move somebody's feeling that way into becoming a passion, then the rest takes care of itself, right? Whether or not they learn this concept today or not, that takes care of what they're going to invest their time in the future. So I guess my question ultimately is, what's the future? Where do you see the future of your programs? What's the next stage? Where are you hoping for in the next few years? You have brought it all the way thus far, but what do you see that being the next stage?
I think with the Burkhart Center and the outreach we have with our mobile clinic right now, I'd like to see how much more of an impact we can make statewide. I've actually thought about Junction. I'm from the Hill Country, and so when I found out about the Junction campus, I was like, okay, how can I figure out a way to get down there? Because that's home to me. Right. So, and we have a summer training camp that we do for teachers, and I've talked to the associate dean at the College of Education about Can we do this in Junction? Do you think that there's space and room? Because I know there's rural teachers that would benefit from this, and kids in those areas, in those rural school districts that just do not have access to the services of a place like the Burkhart Center. And can we do that there? Like, I think that would be amazing to be able to.
I'll tell you the answer is yes.
Okay. There we go. There we go. But just continued impact, especially in rural Texas, that's close to my heart because, like I said, I'm from that area. And that means a lot to me to be able to go back home and help those in rural spaces.
Well, my thought, and I was thinking about where we started the conversation, and I was so enamored with what we were saying about, is just experience and opportunity. Experience and opportunity. Getting these, I don't know where, I can't look at a 10-year-old kid and say, you're going to be a doctor. I can just tell. I have no clue. And neither do they, and neither do their parents and stuff like that. But I just want to give every kid an opportunity to do things, to experience life, to have these opportunities. And it seems like the world that we live in, those things are shrinking. So my hope is that we've stopped it with all these things that we're doing, that we've stopped that shrinking of chances for kids, and that we can start expanding these thoughts and things where we get kids outdoors more, because that's important. I mean, really, that's a central focus. It's just such an easy topic to say everybody agrees with. Don't you feel better when you're outside? Yes. Yeah. Then why don't we do it? You know, and it's just, I don't have an answer for that. Why can't we do it? So I hope that we take that experience and the opportunities and we start expanding that to people beyond, beyond the borders of Lubbock, beyond the borders of Texas and things like that. And these programs just kind of start living themselves. And I always had a saying that it's like, I want to build better scientists, better stewards, and better kids that think of themselves, right? Stewards, science, selves. And I've changed that. I've moved the self to the front. So my focus, I want to build better humans that think better of themselves. And then the science can come. And then the stewardship of the environment follows that. It's an easy process. It's a hard path. So that's kind of where I see my hope for this program growing, for all of our programs, just the expansion as we go through there. And it's just more kids, opportunities. And if a kid comes to me and had the best 3 days of their lives outdoors, and then they become a computer scientist and they're happy doing that indoors, then God bless them, and that's fantastic. But there's got to be one or two kids that, you know what, I never thought about this. I could be this person. I could be an outdoor scientist of some sort. I could be a naturalist. I could even I could be a bird watcher as a hobby. That's something for me, and I never thought there. And if I got that, then that's a win, and I'm ahead at the end of the game. That's my hope.
I think mine combines what both of you said, I just hope that we can have, produce better people. If they come through our program for whatever reason, whether they're coming through as a participant, whether they're coming through to be a student instructor, they come out to volunteer, they come out for research, whatever, that they just leave the place better. And I feel like that's what's kept me going, is I got to be a part of something that made somebody's life a little bit better, and hopefully change their outlook a little bit. And I feel like at the end of the day, if we can reach more people, like you were saying, and get more out there, like I have lofty goals and want to have 3 arenas going at once, and people are like, well, hold the reins, literally. But if we can get more people out there and keep putting out better instructors, and, it sounds cheesy, but to make the world a better place just by you chipping in your little part that you can. And, I feel like over the 20 years that I've been a part of the Therapeutic Writing Center, I've seen such huge changes, and it's possible, and I don't know, just to become all around better humans. I feel like that's the goal and the hope.
I think that for me, I really haven't met a human being that has told me, I don't like music. I think that everybody likes music to some degree, different music. I gather that and I understand that. So for me, it's just like for many of you, it's all about access. Do I want everybody to be a musician? No, that's not the goal. But I would love to be able to provide more access to those who want to experience, who may have a chance and have the potential and have the desire to experience music. So it's all about the access. That's why we're doing this. Reaching out to a population where otherwise, as I stated, they wouldn't have access to those opportunities. And the reason why I scratch my head every night is, how do we make this access more widely available to those kids who have the talent, who have the interest, who can benefit from musical instruction, whether or not they're going to become a musician down the road. It's obviously a problem that, just like you were mentioning, it looks as if though it's the way that the society is moving is towards less opportunities sometimes. And what we're trying to do here, I think that all of us, is to expand those opportunities to reach the larger number of kids, people, adults as we can. So that's really my ultimate goal.
We have a piano in our cafeteria, so we have kids there. And it's funny, I'm just an observer of life. And when a kid plays a piano, they're always smiling. I don't know if you've noticed, it may be different when they're playing in front of a huge audience and they're very serious and everything like that. But when they're in a camp shirt, when they've been playing in the world, they're with their friends who they feel comfortable. And if they're just playing just a simple nursery rhyme or something like that, they're smiling, and then it brings everybody over there. They stop, the eating stops, and now I'm frustrated, so oh my God, we're gonna be late. But they congregated, so it's such a social, well-being kind of, music brings that kind of, those philosophies together with these kids, and it's such a neat thing to see in person.
Yeah, so the nervous part of it, it's really right before it. Most everybody will tell you that once you start playing, that goes away. Because really music is, just like most of your disciplines, I guess, it's about expression. So you are saying something that you cannot express through words, I guess. It's a different means of communication, and music is such a cliche that it's the universal language and whatnot. But at the end of the story, these kids are trying to say something through nonverbal communication, and I think that we all experience to some degree that. And so once they start doing that, they're having fun. It's they're talking in a different way. And so once they break that barrier that oh my gosh, I'm going to make a fool out of myself, then they realize, no, I'm not. This is enjoyable. I'm communicating something that I want to do. And so this has been great. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think that we have a lot more in common
I think so too.
than we ever thought.